Welcome, everybody. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there any changes to the agenda?
Yes, one change is I would make a motion to seal the minutes, the non-public minutes from tonight's meeting dated 7/11.
Second,
I'll second that.
we have to take a roll call vote.
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
500.
I'd like to make a second motion to amend the agenda to include nominations of Cesaria Reynoso as a JRMS Spanish teacher effective August 22nd, and the nomination of Christopher Grinstead, JRMS 8th grade math teacher effective August 22nd, as well as budget transfers to student services. And do you want me to list the amounts, or can I just say 4 budget transfers to student services?
Just list the amounts as you do.
I'm sorry.
Just say the transfers and the amounts.
Transfer of 115,000 to student services due to, and due to wrong displacement, transfer to 40,000 to cover different lines, transfer $29,048, moving funds between salary lines, and transfer of $29,057, moving funds from salary lines.
Second,
Before we do that, would you be willing to just shift your motion, just add an add on that first teacher, that pending statement of eligibility?
Oh, yes, please. Yeah, pending statement of eligibility. Was there anything else in the second teacher?
No, all
Okay.
was fine.
So on Cesario Reynoso, JRMS Spanish teacher, effective August 22nd, pending statement of eligibility.
I'll second that.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
We are,
We
because we have
a
one,
remote,
we
right?
have one remote person, we gotta do a
So
roll
we're gonna
call.
do roll call. Daisy,
Aye.
Christine,
Aye.
Lisa?
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
and I say aye. Public comments.
All right, this is Nicholas Handy, Communications Coordinator and School Board Secretary. Going to put the public comments policy up on the screen for everybody to be able to read. Just make sure you are familiar with that policy before making a public comment. If you are digital, you can use the hand raise feature. It should be at the bottom of whatever screen you're at. We can acknowledge you from there. If you could use first name, last name, and town of residence, that would be greatly appreciated. All right, I'm not seeing anybody.
So we have no public comments, so let's go to the superintendent's report.
Okay, we'll start off by the fact that this year had a lot of legislative action. And some of the actions involve our health centers, our nurses, those ones, and they're not on this report right here, but those areas that are affecting the nurses station, those have been sent to the nurses, also to Leslie, because they involve forms and information, gathering of information, permission for opting in for first aid treatment and things of that nature. So being more explicit about getting parents' permission for those items, as well as there was another item having to do with I guess you could say an easing up of parents giving their reasoning for not having vaccines. For instance, they don't have to have it notarized that it's a religious exemption. They can just say it. So all that information has gone their way. There was some information that had to do with our facilities, that I have sent to them about student badges and what needed to be on those student badges. And due to suicide law, or the laws relative to suicide prevention, that we have to put some suicide prevention kind of a hotline on those badges for our learners, our older learners anyway. So that's something, and since we're in the conversations about safety and about rebadging, and anyway, it's actually comes at a very nice time for us. I'm going to come back to these other areas that are more kind of specific to the school district, actually change wise or importance wise. We will be meeting this week. I think the high school, actually, the middle school is going to be meeting on its own tomorrow, just as kind of a pre-meeting, because there's a bigger institution. And then I'll be meeting with the fire and police chiefs on Thursday to talk about ideas or musts, I guess you would say, to go after for some grants that they made available for safety, up to $100,000 per school. And I believe that the middle school counts as one, the high school counts as another, and then the 2 elementary schools are separate. So it's for a total of a possible of 400,000. But we want to coordinate efforts and make sure that our community safety personnel are in line with the decision making there as well. We think we know we've had these ongoing conversations, but we want to firm that up because there's like an early due date, which is next week, early decisions, and then there's another date in August that we'll go after if we can't get everything together for all the schools by that time. We'd certainly like to speed the process up if at all possible. The other 2 areas that one of which is going to have to go to policy at some time, which is the order about keeping letting people the right to keep the bear arms. The School Board Association gives us this immediate practice impact, and what it's saying is that the bill may, however, impact other district policies and protocols relative to firearms in school grounds, potentially affect law enforcement responses, which ties into our conversation with law enforcement regarding persons on school grounds carrying a firearm. And so this is their guidance that we, of course, need to, I think, discuss maybe a little bit, or at least just go and take their guidance. It is imperative that administrators and school boards confer with local law enforcement and with their private counsel as soon as possible about appropriate protocols and expectations in such situations. So if people have a knife or a gun on them on the premises. And then Jen told us that this could happen. It was likely to take place. It is going to have a financial impact somewhere along the line for the school district, is that the special ed costs for students will carry on to the 22nd birthday, which is similar to or the same as what Massachusetts currently does. Currently, we do it a year prior, the 21st birthday. So that's another year of expenses for the district for certain individuals who typically, most likely, are in a different placement. Sometimes they can be here at the school as well.
But she also said it wasn't an added expense this year for us because we didn't have anyone in that limbo.
No,
Right.
no, I don't think that we're concerned about the impact of that this year.
Yeah.
But for future years, it's something to understand. Other areas of interest, we have a job fair. I think it's our first ever job fair, at least since I've been here. This coming July 13th, Wednesday, 2:30 to 7 o'clock. And we've been advertising. We've been using this opportunity to kind of advertise in different ways, try out some different methods. So we purchased some signs. You may have seen some of those in various areas. We kind of looked at where the general populace of our employees are from and made sure that there was representation from all those areas. There are some places that we didn't go to Milford and so forth, but we did hit Milford through Facebook. And so we boosted our Facebook post, spent a little money there to see how far we could go. Nick actually has some early analytics on that. I don't know, it's interesting. We were just looking at it today. Did you want to? Yeah, do you want to share? Would it be okay if Nick shared? Yep.
Yeah, so we figured we'd just start with about $100 just to see, what it would do. I'm not going to put it up on the screen just because there's some private information on the account. But so we spent $100 starting last week. So what it does is every day it spends an approximate amount of that budget on targeting people in specific areas. What we did is we drew a 50-mile radius around Jaffrey. So we almost hit like Boston, forget exactly where we hit, kind of north and south. And then we were also able to draw smaller 15-mile kind of radiuses. And we hit like kind of some of our bigger towns and cities, both in New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Vermont. And at this point, we've spent, I think it's about $70, $80 of that because we're going up until tomorrow. The original post reached about 7,000 people, which a reach is just somebody's acknowledging it, seeing it on their feed, something like that. So that was just organic, natural, what we can draw from our Facebook. We've already received another 7,000 additional people seeing this Facebook ad that haven't seen it before. These are supposed to be people that aren't necessarily within our existing framework of people. So hopefully a lot of new engagement. The other additional benefit was I added some language in there where it gives me a little bit of data as to when somebody clicks into our website, because we had said if you want to see more information, go to the website. So in those 7,000 people reached, we have 109 people that have clicked into the website. So that's 109 people that were interested enough to learn more about the job fair, the positions, the CBAs, other information outlined. I won't get too far into some of the information, but we get demographic breakdowns by gender, by age, and then even by location. So we've actually noticed that most of this new traffic that we've generated via the advertisement has come via Massachusetts. More than half of that is somebody who has logged in from Massachusetts. We're also getting people from Vermont, Maine, New York. So maybe some of these might be a little too far away, but maybe for a teaching position, somebody might be willing to move closer. But I think that kind of Massachusetts information and hitting those people that are maybe on the border could be key to maybe having some people come up. So we just tried something different, spent a small amount of money on it. In terms of looking at like a newspaper advertisement and what we would have spent on that between the signs and the Facebook advertisement, we've spent a lot less money than we would have through that avenue. And we're just trying different things. If, whenever somebody comes to the fair, we're going to have some sort of questionnaire to say, hey, how did you hear about this? So we can at least say, okay, we had, 15 people and 12 of them heard about us via Facebook. So we can know that that's a valid advertisement spot moving forward. So we're getting traffic. It's just whether or not that translate, if we have 7,000 people that saw it, 100 people that clicked into the website, we get even, 3 people that came to the job fair and those people are hired, then that could be value.
Thank you.
It's money well spent.
Maybe. I think it's not, I think it's a better use of we thought it was as a group, a better use of funds than putting it into a newspaper or just relying on School Spring and so forth. And so we're, trying something different.
I was one of the clicks though, so you should subtract that.
Well, there are a few of us here probably who clicked, but anyway. So MTSSB, that's clearly something that we've been talking about for at least a year and a half or so in some fashion, maybe 2 years. The Ed Committee has had some presentations, I think 2 presentations on multi-tiered systems to support behavior and wellness and the implementation of that. That's been from David Frazier. We already are part of a grant that's helping us with this. We have a consultant that works with us from the Department of Education. That same consultant has felt that we've made some good progress and has recommended us to another organization nearby, the Behavioral Health Improvement Institute of Keene State College. to kind of join efforts with us and with, of course, some data and research that they want to be doing. So we're going to be moving forward. I've signed a couple different letters of interest and also in-kind support for this. So it's kind of like people's time, the use of facilities, things like that. It's valuable. It's called in-kind donations. It's not giving money. In return, if they do, if they're able to secure this grant, it's going to mean 5 years of a lot of support for this district, financially as well. I mean, all professional development, curriculum materials, supplies, nothing that is nothing that would be subscriptions. Like the grant won't ever touch anything like that. So you stay clear of trying to do that. Online subscriptions is kind of what I mean. And working with a local, or maybe some people that we're already working with, some local mental health providers, and making sure that we have a half-time person here all like through the course of the week, working with our learners who perhaps need more support and maybe don't have the, and these are elementary kids we're talking about, don't have the insurance or the capacity to get to different locations. So that's good. Plus another full-time person that the grant would pay for, that would be an employee of ours, paid through this, you know, the college rates and so forth. That would be set aside for full implementation for these 5 years for just the elementary schools, and then trying to make sure that that morphs into something sustainable. But that would allow us to put some other resources that we currently have into another area, plus the that person can help support the secondary as well, because they may have the time to do so. So none of that would be at any cost to the district, and it would be certainly fantastic to be able to continue on in a more robust way than what we're even currently doing, and we're doing pretty well. I talked about the safety work and some grants that we're going to go after with that one. And just to end on a really happy note, congratulations to Ethan Vitello. I think many of you probably had seen it. I think we posted it on our Facebook recently, but also the Monadnock Ledger transcript named him their male athlete of the year. Ethan certainly played, I think he played 2 or 3 seasons this year. Definitely soccer, definitely track. I thought he did cross country as well. I'm not entirely sure, but there's quite a bit, a lot of running, a lot of activity, but broke a lot of records, did very well. And of course was part of the championship team this year, track team. Yeah. Great.
So does anybody have any questions for Ruben?
Yes, so with the, you had mentioned the legislative impact. So if you could elaborate a little bit more of any understanding you have and any, just particularly on the one prohibiting the state from enforcing any federal statute, regulation, or presidential executive order that restricts or regulates the right of people to keep or bear arms. So you have touched on that. Could you go into a little more detail about what your understanding of an impact is and what you're hoping you'll do to understand it better? With what groups will you talk with and what?
Sure. Well, the Superintendent's Association actually sent some guidance out today just on this, basically saying something very similar. Talk to your attorneys and so forth and find out more. The Superintendent's Association will get together this summer and talk more as a group as to how to move forward. You know, I would suspect that it's not going to impact our students and our ability to continue to keep weapons out of our school. That being the case, they did say something that knives were a vague area, which is concerning when they make these laws and they put kind of loopholes in there. You know, we as of right now, we're expecting basically if, and we have to talk with the law enforcement and talk this through. So that's going to be conversations in the next couple of weeks as well as to what our procedures are going to be and what we can say. Because right now I would venture to say if someone came in and we recognize that they had holster and a firearm, we wouldn't let them pass that front door, and we'd call the police and let them know that someone's here with a firearm. But we'd have to find out from them what the ramifications would be. We have to see what our attorneys say we can do. I'm sure that they're going to be fielding this question. All, our Solway Kidder, Drummond and Woodson, they're all going to be talking about what schools need to do and what the best practices are.
The other one that concerned me and to make, have it up board matters. I didn't read this ahead of time, so I'm glad you did it. The first aid one. The
Yeah.
one with the nurses, and I'm glad that you've spoken to the nurses.
Well, sent them the information.
Right.
Yep.
That will be so far reaching for every first grade teacher who deals with teeth falling out in school. This is the idea that we can't wash your hand or put a Band-Aid on without a parent knowing. That's what that is. This is really, this is very far reaching as well. And could get,
It is, we need more
It's
guidance
nothing to be-
on
nothing to
that situation, yeah. Wait, you bring up, it's important. It's just one more, two more, three more things. Then
it's not a question. It's just more of a,
we need to get our ducks in a row to make sure that we're set for the beginning of the year. And also some of our forms that parents are being asked to fill out may be outdated now. Yep.
Okay, any other questions, Ruben? Let's move on to the consent agenda. Withdraw anything from the consent agenda?
A motion to accept the consent agenda.
Daisy, did you want to withdraw the minutes from the 20th?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay, so we're going to withdraw the minutes from June 20, public and both non-public minutes. Okay.
Now I motion to accept approve the consent agenda as amended.
I'll second.
Okay, roll call vote. Daisy,
Aye.
Christine,
Aye.
Aye.
Lisa, Paul?
Aye.
I say aye. Okay, the minutes of June 20, public, non-public 1, and non-public 2. We have a motion.
make a motion to accept those minutes.
Second.
I'll second.
Now we have a roll call vote. Daisy,
Aye.
no.
I think she has to
Abstain?
abstain.
Abstain.
Okay, Christine,
Aye.
Lisa,
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
I vote aye.
And
Motion.
shall I make a motion to reseal the non-public minutes? Do we need to reseal them now? Can we
They're
just-
sealed.
No, you're
They're-
talking about July 5th?
Yeah,
No, they're sealed. They're already sealed.
you know, to reseal it. Oh, okay.
Okay, we have action items. A waiver request from Jaffrey Boy Scouts.
So we have a policy that charges this category 25 per hour with a minimum of $50 for their building usage. As a policy committee, we had talked about the fact that the school district actually been pretty loose over the last, 30 years or so, with charging, even sometimes being able to charge, but then just not doing so. With rising costs, with, the need to make sure that our employees, if it requires overtime or anything like that, that the school district is getting some compensation for the electricity, the heating, everything else that's going on. That's why we put that information. That's a low number. You know, I think John would like to come to policy with a whole different policy. They're building one to give to you, Lisa, to consider bringing forward. It's a good policy to look at every single year anyway, because things change. They're saying this is a lot for them, and are asking for a waiver of these costs. The board can do that. We're in a default budget. We do a lot for the schools do a lot for the community. I think that's important. We do have to be concerned about costs. And as for cleaning protocols and so forth, I don't think that they're cleaning the bathrooms. You know, they have access to the restrooms, the rooms themselves. I don't know as though they're using, disinfecting materials. And if they were, are they even school approved anyway? They have, and on the other hand, they have been very good. They have been very appropriate with our facilities. And so, I think there was one issue one time several years ago with something that happened at one of the events, was it a car event? They do some sort of racing
derby
type of situation. Yeah, there was an item that got broken, but overall, everything's been well taken care of. So they're not abusing the facilities.
So do we have any discussion? Questions?
So Shannon makes the point in her letter that for the most part, when they're here, they're here during the hours where there's already custodial help. So they don't feel that there's the need to hire anyone extra except on that, I think, one day of the year. So that's a point to your concerns that they're not sanitized, they're not cleaning the bathrooms, they're cleaning up after themselves, but they're not doing any deep cleaning. But the custodian's still here, presumably could do that. Although that's perhaps an extra task. I don't know.
Well, it means obviously reorganizing how things are done. There's a lot of accommodations that way. Not to mention, you're talking about that now. The policy itself does say 25 per hour for, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Nick, on this one, you might know, but I think the language is for custodial services. So I don't think we mentioned in there a flat rate or anything for the, which I think is the change that they would like to make for electricity, finding out the cost for electricity during time, for room space usage, just rental of that. Also, if people, were needed, the rates 25 is a low rate for that sort of thing.
So what is our cost?
The policy says 25 per hour.
No, I asked what our cost was.
Oh, what are we paying?
Yeah. Whether they're there or not, the stuff that we do. But we do anyway, that whether they're having a den meeting there or not. Is there some kind of incremental cost? If you have a custodian there, is there an incremental cost for that?
She's not wrong with what she says about the fact that the custodians, they're here during the time frames that the custodians are here. During the school year, the custodians are here till 10. They're here from 6 to 8, I believe, is the time frame that she's talking about. Over at JGS, I think they come over here. One of the groups, anyway, the Girl Scouts maybe comes over here as well from 6 to 8 at times. In the middle high school has used our space. We have not charged them in the past.
So I think the school is a part of the community, and the Boy Scouts, they're all members of the JRMS school district. So Boy Scouts are also a part of our community. I think it's important that we support them. And I mean, it's not a bad cause. They're teaches them great lessons, great life lessons. And by us giving them that little extra spot to meet and host their meetings, I don't see any harm in it.
Policy IJO states partnerships will be developed with local organizations, local city and county governments, and talented individuals to strengthen school programs, family practices, and student learning. Student participation in community service will be encouraged. Business partnerships will also be developed to assist students in the successful transition to employment or further education. I believe the Cub Scouts completely embody that description, as I know it's not an extracurricular event through the schools, but that of any nonprofit using our spaces, or, this really embodies how we would encourage the community to really influence holistically our student body. So I would feel on that, that the benefit to our students, I think, does grant a bit of an exception. I don't know if that means we prorate the amount, because our custodians work incredibly hard, and I have no desire to add to their, you're talking remopping a cafeteria floor plus other buildings, possibly a gym floor. This could be a lot of work, and I don't want to add to that. So I don't know if we should prorate, but I do believe that this constitutes a way that we could provide an exception as a nice extension of what we do in our schools.
Where do they normally meet in the school? Because I don't believe they're a very large den.
In Ringe, they meet at the town.
We meet at
meeting
this. No, we meet at the church now. The
house.
one right on
meeting
the,
house.
we changed it.
Same thing, the
I
big
think we're
white-
talking the same place.
No, the church right here by, it's like by the little plaza right before you hit Jaffrey,
Oh,
by
yeah.
where Alpine Motors used to be, the little church right there.
I believe this is the Jaffrey Grade School Gymnasium and the cafeteria. Mostly the gymnasium, but one day they're, they outline it right in here. But yeah, 4 total groups.
For total
3 days, 3 days, 4 total groups, like, so 4 spaces over the 3 days.
That's every week.
Yeah, 4 meetings a week.
Hmm.
Which is why they're referencing up here the cost that it would be essentially with a.
Does Victory charge the Boy Scouts? Because I know that they meet at Victory regularly. I don't know if that's the older kids, but
I don't know. I didn't know they met over there.
just happens to be right where my kid's dojo is, so.
Sure.
No.
Yeah, you got something?
Yeah, just one like little factual point, just since you guys are discussing costs and things like that. The one thing that could be different is just looking at the summer time hours, because custodians leave a lot earlier. So like right now, there's no custodians in the building. They usually leave at, I believe, 5 o'clock. So just something to consider for summer hours. We would have to bring in somebody potentially, or
Do they still meet in the summertime?
that I don't know. I'm just throwing that fact out there.
Does Stacy know? Stacy. She's.
Because I know Ringe, as soon as school's out, we kind of stop meeting.
Right, I haven't seen them doing anything in the summer.
So
Stacy. Yeah, go ahead, Daisy.
it all depends on the individual troops. For Girl Scouts, I know there are some troops that meet during the summer. My particular troop does not, because I'm not home during the summer to meet.
No troop Zoom meetings, Daisy.
No, No, that we tried that in the spring of 2020, and that was a disaster. And I will never do a Girl Scout meeting over Zoom.
Sure. I guess I would feel fine agreeing to this during the school year when school is in session, meaning not snow days, not vacate, the times when custodians would be on a regular schedule. So during the school year, during when school is in session, and with that caveat that set any Saturday activities would be paid at the normal rate. I would feel okay with that.
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Do you have any of that, Christine?
No, I agree with that.
The only thing I would add is that in the business world, goodwill has value. So I put a price on what it costs us to do something, you balance that against the value of the goodwill that you can see.
Yeah.
So, okay, so let me understand what we're saying is that we would approve this conditional upon it being when the school is in session. So how does that sound?
I think what you're trying to say is when the custodians are working their normal hours, right? So, because school isn't technically in session at 6 to 8 o'clock at night. So during, I think you're saying, or you're saying during the school year.
No, but we want to make sure it's still said when, without snow days, without that time, those times when, if there's a flood at the school and the school has to close for that day, I don't want to have Cub Scouts that night to have to worry about because, the custodians will be busy. So, like the public library is open when school is in session. If there's a snow day, it's not open. That's
So on days when school is in session,
on days when school is in session.
or on
Or evenings.
evenings when school
is in session.
when school is, yeah.
That's suitable?
Yeah.
Okay, do we have a motion?
Rephrase that.
Okay, I make a motion to approve this request with the condition that they utilize the schools, Ringe Memorial and Jeffrey Ringe. It's not the high school, middle school, right?
This request is not for the high school, middle school. Or for Ringe.
Yeah, it's just the Jaffrey Grade School.
This is just for Jeffrey Grade School, then let's keep it specific.
Yep.
Yeah, so make a motion to approve the request to use the Jeffrey Grade School for Cub Scout meetings when school is in session at no charge. Special events such as the Saturday Vinewood Derby would be at the regular, at the rate described in the policy of $25 an hour.
Yes.
My only question on the $25 being included in the motion is just this pending thought that facilities might be sending the policy to the policy committee. And if it's super specific to the existing policy and you guys make changes in July that might take effect later on, would you guys have to explore this motion after that?
I'm gonna say no. So personally, business world, if we're telling this person that they're going to budget a difficult thing, then we need to have a cost for that. So that's, if we change it later and say, now we're gonna up to $35, and hey, Shannon, by the way, now you pay $35 an hour. It seems to me we're saying, agreeing to the 25 an hour. And for this particular event, again, keeping it specific to this so that we're not setting a precedence for all nonprofits. This one's asking for this amount. And I think, I don't think we should change it for a cost. Would you, you're smiling, are you?
I agree.
I'm just wondering what the motion is right now.
All right, so
So-
you would agree with that? Would you
I
agree
would
with
agree
that
with it,
piece?
yes.
Okay, so, ready?
Ready?
All right. So I make a motion that we accept the application to have no cost for the Cub Scouts of Jaffrey's troop. I don't even know what troop it is, so we should put the troop in.
Pack 33.
PAC 33, to utilize the Jaffrey Grade School for their meetings when school is in session, or the days school is in session. The day school is in session. And to charge for their Saturday Pinewood Derby event, $25 an hour.
I'll second it.
Motion second. We have to have is there any more discussion? Roll call vote. Daisy,
Aye.
Christine,
Aye.
Lisa?
Aye.
Paul? And I vote aye. Motion carries 5-0-0. Okay, we have another action item, Primax cap agreement. Address that, I think the finance committee is already in support of this.
Yeah, we talked about this a little bit last time. The finance committee is in support of this. This is recommended by our business administrator, who is online here to discuss it a little bit. And so if Carrie is online, I'd like to give her some airtime if at all possible. We talked about, just as we're waiting for her, if you scroll up a little bit or down. Yeah, you can see that there were times when our percentages of increase were, like, for instance, the FY20 actual, at 15%. Those other years you saw those 10%, that's when we had locked in. There was a year, either once or twice, that we did not lock into those rates. Yeah, we've had a couple good years where we haven't had much, but basically 10% is the highest. It's locking in at the high spot. But Carrie, are you there?
I'm here.
Would you have anything else you'd like to add or say or correct?
No, nothing to correct. I just wanted to point out, I did note on here that the district has received $168,995 in premium holiday credits during this time frame. So what you're seeing for costs here, we actually end up spending less because we received those $168,000 in credits, but we book the full expense and then the credits go as revenue. So the program is to our advantage to utilize. And Primex, being a risk pool management company, by law cannot drop us, whereas an outside company, if we had a high claims year, could decide to drop us the next year, and then we might not have coverage. So we did do an analysis a couple of years ago and went to some private industries, some insurance companies, and determined that Primex offered the best value for us.
This was a 3-year contract, correct?
That's correct. It begins July 1st of 2023, and it's only for the workers' compensation program because that's what we're eligible for right now. We haven't been eligible for the workers' comp in, I think, since 2019. So we are eligible again in order to lock in. And again, the CAP program it's a maximum increase of 10% per year, and it's based on the risk pool members along with our claims activity. So we would never see an increase of 10%. However, we could have an increase that's lower than that. So it's not a fixed percentage. It's 10% at most or less.
Carrie, I'm just curious why we weren't eligible before. Did we have too many claims?
It could be. We did have some higher years. They look at a look back period. I think it's a 5-year time frame. So it depends on what your claims experience is during that look back period.
Okay, any other questions for Carrie? Motion,
A motion to accept the CAP agreement.
a second?
Can you also authorize the superintendent to execute the agreement, please?
Yep, I motion to accept the CAP agreement and authorize the superintendent to authorize the agreement.
Yeah, excellent.
Execute
Yep.
the agreement.
I'll second it.
We have a motion, second, any discussion? Okay, roll call vote. Daisy,
Aye.
Christine,
Aye.
Lisa?
Aye.
John, Paul,
Aye.
and I vote aye. Motion carries 5-0. Okay, board committee updates. Lisa, could you take over for a few minutes, please?
Yes. Yep. So let's start with facilities. Any meetings with facilities?
Facilities hasn't met yet. I believe we're scheduled to meet next Monday at 10. Is that what time it is, Ruben? 10 a.m.
Yeah.
Yeah, we haven't, no new information to pass yet.
And policy meeting is meeting 2 weeks, I believe. Give me a second. My calendar here. Policies meeting on the 21st, so about 2 weeks. And goals is going to be meeting on August 25th next. And wellness committee, they met at all?
No, we don't meet over the summer. We only have to meet 4 times a year.
It's like goals.
So we will meet sometime.
Manifest meets all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
every week.
Communications committee, Nick, how you doing?
Yeah, so we are in a place where within the next week or so, we're going to start pulling everybody together again to meet. The goal of this meeting over the summer would be to officially reform that committee. Last report, we had decided that the first iteration of the committee is over. We're building a new committee. This next meeting will be kind of, okay, what does the membership look like exactly? We had kind of a rough outline at the last committee meeting. When are we going to meet throughout the school year? It looked like we were going to meet about quarterly. And what topics do we want to discuss at those meetings? Again, the goal of the new committee is to try to be a little bit more community-based, pull people back in. We noticed that our numbers dwindled dramatically over the first couple of years of that original committee. This will, by design, allow people to be like, oh, okay, I'm very interested in that topic. I'd like to weigh in at this meeting. So, you know, for example, the first meeting might be purely around the website. So we do a small presentation, but where we're at with the website, give members of the public, the committee, a chance to weigh in on, you know, what they like, what they don't like, what could be changed, where we could go in the future with it, maybe some goal setting from there. The design around the committee itself is to have things be a little bit more like the committee be made up of better representation, because due to drop off, we just kind of had whoever was left. So kind of reshaking things up to say, okay, we're going to have this number of parents, this number of administrators, this number of representation here, so that we can kind of have a more rounded group. And like I said, you know, we could have a meeting that, you know, draws 0 people or 100 people, depending on the topic. So we will probably try to meet officially in the new iteration sometime within the first month, maybe 2 of school, just to give people some time to get acclimated back into the school year. So
Finance, is there any?
Finance committee will meet next week, I believe.
Next Thursday.
And we haven't had a meeting since the last board.
Finance facilities meet on the same day? Is that-
No,
Same.
facilities is Monday, the 18th, and finance is Thursday, the 21st.
And the last one, I think, would be education committee. updates? Anybody?
Education Committee is going to meet Thursday.
That's it.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, that brings us to public comments too.
Well, I have everything pulling up. The 2022-23 committee agenda is now on the website. So obviously, if the meetings are reflected in that calendar, then we're good to go. But if there are changes, we need to make sure that those come to me more than 24 hours in advance. So we can note that somewhere on the website. So here is the policy committee again, or sorry, the policy again. If anybody wants to make a public comment, first, last name, town of residence, use the hand raise feature at the bottom of the screen. All right, I'm not seeing anybody.
How many people do we have tuned in?
How many people do we have right now?
Yeah.
It's just Carrie. We started the meeting with two
Thank you for
people.
hanging in there, Barry.
Thank you, Carrie.
Yeah, we started with two and now we're down to one. So
You lost them, huh?
very controversial meeting we have tonight.
Yes, it is. Okay, board matters. Does anyone have any board matters?
So yes, so I had asked Nick to put up that special legislative action stuff that Ruben had kindly started the conversation on. There, one piece, and we're going to focus on this, I think, a good deal at our policy meeting coming up, but I did want to bring it to the board as kind of a, maybe some people have more information, or if you could scroll down to the one on homeschooling people using our extracurricular activities. If you wouldn't mind going down to that one. So Sununu signed into a law saying that we need to have a policy saying that the way you access, ways a homeschooler or accesses our extracurricular activities can't be any more difficult than our resident students and our current students, which is something we have in place. Except what it also says is that we actually need the R, we need the procedures. And when I move through our policies, I'm finding that's something this school district has not really done any of the procedures as part of our policy database. We've kept the R's away, and they're in other places, they're in handbooks or things like that, but I actually can't find them. Like it's a circle when I'm clicking on how to find things, it's a circle back and back saying, look in this appendix. You click there, look in this appendix, and nope, there's no appendix. Do we have an appendix?
So this is Nick, communications coordinator. So part of the issue is that you have policies that are perhaps written a certain way with certain things in place, and then that thing is no longer in place. So it gets repealed, it gets changed, it gets altered, and then it's no longer relevant.
Right.
That's something that I've been noticing and
Drives
doing
to
my
it.
policy changes and updates as I've been kind of going through. Even just in KFR, which deals with use of school buildings and facilities procedures, which, is something we kind of talked about tonight. That isn't our policy that we have, but it needs to be updated, not necessarily to look at costs or anything, but it references an outdated software that we use. That, granted, that just happened, but I think we have a lot of links and information in these policies that are heavily reliant on those things staying active or in place. I don't necessarily know the best way to alter, fix, change that, but I have noticed a lot of times, even, when I put up the, GCBD, the criminal background check policy, that policy says it's the same policy. It says also IJOC, the old version. The new version doesn't, because we didn't include it when we approved it. When you go to IJOC, it deals with school volunteers, which is a similar policy, but not the same. And then it says also ABA, and then you go to ABA, and it's a slightly different policy, but it's the same thing. So we have a lot of policies that are linked together by saying it's also this, it's also that, but they're not the same. So I don't know if that's a practice that we want to start looking at abandoning, or if we want to just be hyper vigilant to ensure that when we change one policy, it goes through that whole chain. Referencing appendixes and things like that. I remember that there have been a couple that the board has repealed over time. You know, some of those are policies, they've never been put back into place. And then you have an old policy that references, oh, we still have this reference document, but it gets repealed, so it no longer has value. So I think there's a lot of this, there's a lot of interconnectivity in some of our policies, and I don't know if we necessarily want to be so reliant on having that in place, because we're kind of in that place where, like you said, it's, oh, we'll refer to this policy. Okay, that one no longer exists or has been changed. Okay, refer here. Okay, that document no longer is relevant or exists. Here's a link. Okay, that link doesn't work anymore. So that, I don't know if that's a larger project down the line, or if it's something that we just need to be vigilant about as we kind of move through policy revision. But there, I have too noticed a lot of that disconnectiveness throughout our policies.
But do we have appendixes?
We don't tend to have appendices.
So could I ask, I don't know if it's Ruben or Nick to ask this, but if, so that we can make sure we're in line with this R piece, if you could just show us what you kind of currently have for procedure. I'm sure you have some procedure, some piece of paper, some like, this is what a parent has to do to get their kid to be able to be an extracurricular. So just to give you a heads up, just that could be ready so that we can review that pretty quickly.
Yeah.
It seems like it's something that needs to be done fast. So thank you.
Anything else? Any other board matters? Okay. Future items. I'm afraid the policy is going to start meeting more frequently.
I have a feeling we should. I really do. There's too many things that are immediate. Yeah, there's too many things that really are.
It has been a very active session for the legislature. On many fronts. Okay, do I have a motion?
Make a motion to adjourn.
I will second that.
Okay, roll call. Daisy,
Aye.
Christine,
Aye.
Lisa,
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
and I vote aye. Motion carries 5-0.
All right, have a good night, everybody.